I just got back from an Alaskan cruise. I went all by myself, and I have to tell you that had I not gone, I would have missed out on this. Watching humpback whales in the wild do this bubble net feeding where they blow bubbles around a school of fish just to kind of create like an imaginary fence line for them because they're confused. So they just continue to swirl around in the same area. And then the whales on signal will go underneath and then come up with their mouths wide open to swallow up the fish. To see that in the wild was a huge bucket list item for me, and I got to see it, and I'm still giddy. I'm still giddy. But this video is not gonna be about touring Alaska, although I think you should. It's beautiful up there. But it's going to be about traveling solo. Some of the things that I learned that fascinated me and surprised me even though I have traveled solo before. Hi, my name is Lisa, and if you are new here, welcome to the channel. I am a Canadian mom, grandma, and a retired teacher. And one of the really cool things I learned about traveling solo was just how many people were traveling solo, but for different reasons. So when we think about traveling single, I think some people get it confused with like a singles cruise where they want to find a companion, like even just for the week. And that's not what I mean at all. Traveling solo can be for so many different reasons. I met people who were widowed, who were divorced, who had never been married, who were traveling alone, even though they were married, but their partners did not like to cruise. So they went without them, couldn't get away from work, or even had really bad health issues, so were not able to get away. So all of the above actually occurred on this trip. I met people of all those different categories. And I knew I would meet different people because I have traveled solo before. But this time around, I went with a cruise line called Norwegian, which really caters to the solo travelers. So on this particular ship, it was the Norwegian Encore. It has 82 designated solo cabins, and they are on 3 levels. And in between the 3 levels, there is a solo lounge. So the people of those 82 suites could go in there. We could have coffee together, morning discussions. Sometimes at 5 o'clock, we would meet, sometimes have some activities, sometimes go to dinner together, either in small groups or all in a big group. And what's really cool about this kind of concept is even though you're traveling solo, you never really feel like you have to be alone. Like there was always an opportunity to meet up with other people if that is what you chose. It was kind of like companionship on demand, I guess you could say. But if you didn't want to, if you just wanted to do dining by yourself or go to the shows by yourself or just hanging out in your room and watch a movie, then that was completely fine. And nobody looked at you weird, like, why do you want to be by yourself? Because everybody there was of the same mindset. They totally got it. And the other thing I found interesting in that solo cabin area was that you had to be 18 to be in there. And so I saw people of all ages. I saw 20-year-olds. I think she was in her 80s, and she struggled a little bit in terms of navigating around different parts of the ship. So I helped her a couple times. But other than that, she was good to go and she had a great time. And being honest with you, part of what I find interesting on these trips is meeting people from all walks of life and getting their stories. And there was one gentleman, he had gone through a divorce recently and his kids were in their 20s. So he was giving them all of his worldly possessions, selling his place. He was telling a story about how the kids were fighting over the car versus ownership of his dog. But his goal was basically just to ditch everything and just travel, be on a cruise ship for the next year. He was so excited. I don't think I'm quite there yet. I mean, I do like to go on these cruises, but I mean, everyone is different, right? I like traveling with my family sometimes and sometimes by myself and sometimes with friends. I like to mix it up a bit. But I have to tell you that I do appreciate solo traveling more than I thought I would. And I am not alone in that. In preparation for this video, I did some digging. And as it turns out, In 2025, the global cruise passenger volume reached 37.2 million passengers. And cruise lines are realizing that their solo travelers are becoming a big portion of their customers. So much so that major cruise lines are actually redesigning their offerings around the solo cruisers. For example, Norwegian, they have almost 1,000 solo staterooms across their fleet. I know Viking has a bunch of them. I heard Princess, they only have a few. Princess is the one I tend to travel with the most. And I was paying like the double occupancy because this is what most cruise lines had done before, right? If the stated cost is $1,000 for that room, they're expecting that two people are going to be in that room, right? So they're expecting $2,000 for that room. And if you're by yourself, then the cruise line is missing out on that $1,000. So they're just charging for the room, regardless of whether there's one or two people in there, double occupancy. So when I was traveling by myself, sometimes I would say, okay, you know what, if I'm going to pay $2,000 for this room anyway, I might as well bring somebody with me. So I've brought friends, I've brought family with me just because I'm thinking there's no point in wasting if I'm going to pay for it anyway. These cruise lines are realizing that we don't want to pay that double occupancy. So they are creating these smaller solo staterooms and only charging us that $1,000 or a little bit more than that. But to be honest with you, if you're looking for a solo cabin, be careful because sometimes you can get really good sales and you can get an inner cabin for even cheaper than the solo cabins because the solo cabins are harder to find. So therefore, think of supply and demand. And when the demand is up and supply is down, then the cost tends to go up. So if you're shopping around for a solo cabin, just be aware of those things and price out the interior cabins as well, just to see which is the better price. So what does a solo cabin look like? Well, I was pretty excited about this because I've never experienced a solo cabin before. And like I said, this is on Norwegian Encore, and there was 82 of these suites, and this is what it looks like. The cabins are in a completely different area all to itself, and you use your key card in order to get into that restricted area. And then heading on down the hallway to my room. Okay, so let's take a tour. Here's the bed. It was super comfortable. It's only a single. And as you can see, the room's not very big. It's only 100 square feet. The only thing I found squishy about this place at all was the bathroom. If you've got really long legs, you're going to have to keep the door open. The shower was really roomy. As for storage, there was two main closets, and I found them to be more than enough to put everything in there. And in the second cabinet, you're going to see that there was a safe at the bottom, which was very helpful. So overall, the solo cabin, I actually really, really liked it. The only thing I didn't like was, there was no balcony. That kind of sucked because I love the balconies. But having that video on the side of the wall, it kind of, made you feel like you were connected to the outside, even though you weren't. There was a particular sound that drove me nuts while I was there. That's the first night I heard a swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. I thought for a little bit that maybe my particular cabin was right underneath the pool because I could hear the water sloshing. Turns out that wasn't the case. I was right beside these pipes. I ended up needing to use some earplugs in order to get to sleep a couple nights. I talked to other passengers and they did not have the same issue. So I think it was just the luck of the draw of where my cabin happened to be. Another drawback was the cabins didn't have a little fridge, but wasn't a big deal. And honestly, that is the only criticisms I have of the rooms. They were really cool. I found them plenty roomy enough for just one person. And would I do it again? Absolutely, in a heartbeat. I just wouldn't choose that particular cabin. Another thing I really appreciated about being in this solo studio experience was the other people that were there didn't see it as strange to be traveling solo at all. I mean, they were doing it as well, right? Whereas I find I kind of get some weird looks when I start talking about it with other people. But I want to share with you as to why I feel that cruising works so well for me as a solo woman. First of all, I detest all the dragging of my luggage around. I'm not one of these people who could throw a backpack on and travel, through Europe for 6 weeks like my kids do. My hat goes off to them. I just can't do it. I like the idea of having a home away from home. So the cruise ship, when you get on it, you unpack once. And then I know it sounds really strange, but it's like my home or my resort travels with me. And it doesn't matter whether I'm on the ship for 7 days, 14 days, there's like 90-day cruises. You still only have to unpack once, right? I love that. And then because this is my home for that time, there's familiarity. I know where I'm going to eat. I know where I'm going to sleep. That little bedroom became my home for 7 days, and it's becomes your safe place, right? And it's comforting. And I just love being able to get off the ship in the morning, go explore all day long, and then come back to my familiar, safe, secure setting. There's no changing hotels every night, no, scrolling through your phone trying to figure out where you're going to eat or where you're going to sleep that night. I have control over my days, and that makes me feel secure as well. And here's another thing. If you feel uncomfortable at a certain destination, you don't have to get off board if you don't want to, or you've already been to that location before and you just have no desire to do it again. Now you can stay on the ship, and there's all kinds of activities that are going to be going on, or you can just take the day just to chillax by the pool if you want to, or watch movies or play all the different games that they have available for you. And another factor is with the excursions, you're traveling with a group. And that's another reason why I feel safe, especially when you're out at night. As a solo woman, you're always having that extra layer of how do I protect myself? Those are those thoughts in the back of your head. So those planned, monitored excursions also make me feel safer. Now, is it a guarantee? No. Anytime we travel, there's no guarantee, right? But I just feel good that I'm putting all these layers of safety in place, and it just makes my experience so much more comfortable. And here's another perk of traveling solo. I find that when I travel with my family or friends, we focus on ourselves, right? We focus on our small group. And I'm not so inclined to be talking to other people. But when I'm traveling solo, then I am open to talking to strangers and making new friends. And with this particular trip, I felt like I was meeting a whole bunch of people. To be fair, it was also my birthday. So I was on an excursion and the whole bus sang happy birthday to me. So that kind of gave me a little bit of notoriety. So I was walking through the ship and people were saying, hi, Lisa, hi, Lisa. And I had no idea who they were. But at the same time, sitting with different people at dinner time. So I met some wonderful people from Tennessee and Alabama, a couple ladies from Portland. I ended up hanging out with them quite a bit. So this was a great opportunity to make friends in a way that had I been with my family, I probably wouldn't have had the inclination to spend that time with these people. But at the same time, should I want to just be on my own, then it is completely okay as well. What I did this time, because it was an Alaskan cruise, there's a section at the top of the ship called the Vibe Club, and it's an 18 plus area that you have to pay for to have access to this area. And I took a chance on it because I was afraid of the weather, but this cruise was perfect weather. We lucked out so much. There was even blue sky at some points, which is such a rarity for Alaska because I think they have rain and cloud like 200 days of the year is what they told us. So they were very excited. Even the Alaskans were very excited that we had blue sky. So being up top and being able to see the glaciers in the open air like that meant a lot to me. And honestly, I spent hours up there all by myself. There were people around, but I was not visiting with them and sitting with them. I was just in a blanket, just watching the beauty pass us by, scanning for whales. I lost count of the whales. There were so many of them on this trip. And I saw turtles and dolphins. I even saw a shark this time. That was the first time I've ever seen a shark. So, had I not been up there all by myself, just purposefully studying the water, I would have missed out on those things too. But that's some of the things that you can do when you travel solo that had I been with my family, they would be going, Mom, where are you? You've been gone for 3 hours. What are you doing? But I have to admit that I don't think everybody would want to travel alone. Some people have said to me that that's not for me, and that's completely fine. If that idea sounds like absolutely miserable to you, then don't do it. But that's very different from the idea of really wanting to go, but being afraid to go alone. And if that's you, then that's who I'm really talking to right now. Because if you're doing the someday I'll go to Italy, or someday I'll go to Alaska, or someday I'll take that cruise, I just need someone to go with me. Let me tell you, my friends, sometimes we wait a long time for all the stars to line up to make sure that, the family members, their schedules coordinate so that they can come with us, or your friends can get time off work. And in the meantime, these opportunities might pass you by. So if you really want to go, just try it. The solo cruises are actually pretty cool. And who knows, we might even cross paths on a cruise ship one day. That would be cool. There is a question that I want to address that I do get from friends when I come back from these solo trips is, do you ever feel like you're lonely on the ship? Were there moments where I would see something and I would say, jeepers, I wish my kids could have seen that? So, for example, I taught in Dubai in 2015. And while living there, I did a little trip over to Egypt. And I was standing in front of the pyramids. And I actually started to cry a little bit because I was sad that my boys weren't there to see it with me. So, are there times that I wish that my family was with me to share in these experiences? Absolutely. And I do have those opportunities to have trips with my family. We just did a big family trip to Mexico in March. And my one son and his wife and I are planning to do another cruise together, just the three of us, to the Baltic next year. I don't buy a lot of things. I try to put my money into experiences. My family and I, we do things like give each other concert tickets and shows and stuff like that, experiences, not stuff. And so this is why travel is a big thing for me. I'm trying to create a lot of memories with my family as much as I can, as I'm young enough and healthy enough to be able to do these things. And I'll tell you right now, I'm a little worried about this Baltic cruise because it's going to be really walking intensive. And so I got to get my health in order before we tackle that cruise for sure. So I guess what I'm saying is I've reached a point in my life where not having someone to go with me isn't enough of a reason for me not to go, because this world is too big, life is too short, and there are too many amazing things to see out there like this. And I don't want to miss scenes like this. So I'm not here telling you that you should travel alone. What I am saying is don't let being alone convince you that you have to stay home. There's a lot of us out there doing exactly that. Come join us if you want. So my question to you is, have you ever traveled alone? Or is there somewhere that you've always wanted to go, but you haven't yet because you're either afraid to go alone or you just thinking, well, I don't have anybody to go with? Where is that place? Where do you really want to go, but just haven't been able to get yourself over that finish line to get there yet? I'd really like to hear about that in the comments. In the meantime, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and maybe even subscribe to the channel because it really does help channels like mine. And above all, have a wonderful day.